Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. My name is Scott Morganroth, and with me tonight is Stuart Hack, regularly on Thursday from Hack Attack. Stu, we get to visually do this bad boy. He's there. I'm here out in Wellington, Coral Springs, still Broward County. From my end, Palm Beach on yours. How you doing, Stu?
I'm doing great, and we can see each other.
Absolutely. Of course, we do this every other Tuesday night, but now we get to do it on this platform. Good stuff.
Definitely.
So, all right, well, we're going to be doing a lot more of these as time goes on, and I'm glad that we have a chance to kick it off tonight. Is there a pun intended? Of course it's a pun intended. It's opening night of the National Football. You got to use a kickoff analogy, right?
Yeah. So now, I would say play ball. I mean, what do they say? Do we do a coin flip? What?
I don't know. Of course, in Detroit, we screwed up the coin flips in the past. So it doesn't make any difference. But hey, we're leading off a new era here for us, Stuart, on 108 Stitches Baseball Talk or whatever broadcast we're doing with you and I doing this show. It's going to be pretty cool stuff. So let's talk about some of the interesting things here that have occurred in the last couple of days. As much as we talk about football season, if you look at some of these baseball scores, you might think that we are talking football. All right. And I'll make reference to one that occurred out in Atlanta. The Miami Marlins lose 29-9 to the Atlanta Braves. The Braves had a franchise record for runs, and they had 7 home runs. Get this for a line score, Stu, okay? For the Braves, 29 runs, 23 hits, no errors. Marlins 9, 13-2. Miami actually, though, Stuart, took 2 of 3 for their first series in Atlanta since September 12th to the 14th, 2016. And I'll tell you what Don Mattingly had to say. But what are your thoughts about such a lopsided defeat?
You know, this is the age you're seeing, I hate to say it, a lot of subpar baseball all across the majors. They're players that probably, if this was a normal season, you wouldn't see on the roster, right, especially in the bullpen area for Miami. It's unfortunate. I don't think it's great for the game to see a lot of scores like this, and I think there was that 19-0 game as well. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, I was getting to that. And I will get to that. And it leaves a sour taste in my mouth knowing that 19-0 game occurred with my significant other's team, which makes it even worse than a Lions-Packers outcome. But, yeah, but when you look at the 29-9 game, I talked to Don Mattingly on our media availability, and he's an optimistic guy, okay? And he said, losing these games bigger is a little easier to stomach than having a 4-2 lead and giving it up.
And there's, as of now, there's still a playoff team. 38 teams through their season, only 22 to go. They have the last spot in the playoffs. And in a series, anything can happen. And, when I was looking, the Astros are hoping to get Justin Verlander back.
Right.
They are the 6th seed right now. So in the first round, they would get the White Sox, who were the 3rd seed. And, things can happen in the playoffs with guys coming back and with the shortened schedule. Mm-hmm. And you wonder, when it's all said, will the World Series team come from 2 lower seeds, or would you see your Dodgers and Rays, who are the top seeds right now, just go? So we're going to see a lot of things we've never seen before, and we just have to buckle up and get ready for the ride.
Let me reference Don Mattingly's press conference. I asked him a question. I asked him about one loss, regardless of the if it's a one loss, whether it's 29-9 or 2-1. So everybody knows that it's just a loss. But I asked him how many games could this affect for the pitching staff, and he says to me, "You recover quicker by making a lot of moves," which the Marlins made a lot of corresponding moves. But if you have 2 games in a row, then it's definitely sets you back quite a while. And obviously he doesn't want to have any more games like this. So, all right, you live with 1 game, but if you have 2 or 3 lopsided, your bullpen's upside down, and oh my goodness, can you imagine the fiasco that you have with a pitching staff with 2 big games in a row? And I'll allude to that with the figures in a moment.
The Marlins are playing tonight, and they're losing 6-3 in the 6th inning. So Alcantara's pitching, and he's been in there the whole game. And normally they may have pulled him,
Right.
but to save the bullpen a little bit, you may see him going a little bit deeper. I think what's his pitch count? If I could see, he's thrown 90 pitches, so clearly he could go 6. Maybe if he finishes, if it isn't that much straining, he can go for a 7, just to give the bullpen a little bit of a break.
Well, Don Mattingly told us at the Zoom conference that it was his utmost intention to push pitchers a little bit further if he could possibly do that. So he's definitely staying true to form. Now that you kindly mentioned the Milwaukee Brewers 19-0 beating over the Detroit Tigers, game, here's your line score for that one. Milwaukee 19-21-0, the Tigers 0-2-1. And when you look at this particular game as being played at Comerica Park looked like Coors Field in Denver. And the only 2 hits that the Tigers had came from Willie Castro, and that was it. Now, if you want to talk about how Detroit handled their doubleheader against the St. Louis Cardinals, Game 1 got off to a horrible start as they lost 12-2 to the Cardinals in Game 1 of their doubleheader. Bear in mind, it was the Cardinals that where there were some COVID-19 cancellations. Now, 2 of those games are not going to be made up. The Tigers are going to finish with 58 games, less than 2 Cardinals games because of the COVID outbreak. But the line score in Game 1 was 12-0 for the Cardinals, and Detroit 2-5-0. Bear in mind, a 7-inning contest, but when you think of the fact, let me tell you about how good my math is. Those 2 game count, 31-2, that's a really tough pill to swallow back in Detroit for 2 in a row. Talk about, and this goes back to what Don Mattingly said. You don't want it to happen 2 games in a row. That's exactly what happened with Detroit.
At least they have another game tonight to try and make up something. If they get swept and they lose big again, that's going to hurt. And, Detroit was surprising people early on in the season, but I think what you're seeing now, it appears the 60-game schedule is just enough to weed out some teams that would start well and start to peter off. So, like Detroit started off pretty well, but now they're starting to fall back. And I hate to say it, the Marlins may be the same way.
Right.
I mean, they're still a playoff team now, but there are a couple of teams breathing down their necks. And, they still have – the Marlins have 22 games to go if they get them all in.
Well, the Tigers actually, now that you brought that up, they played the second game of their doubleheader, and thankfully for them, it worked out. They ended up winning that game 6-3. So they were able to split the doubleheader, but more importantly, get those 2 nightmare games out of the way, because you can't lose that many more games, especially knowing you have the White Sox on the schedule, a team that we're going to talk about shortly. So with that said, okay, I was asking between interviews, because the Marlins had 3 people, but I was asking Fox Sports, Craig Minervini, what was worse, a 19-9 loss or a 19-0 loss, or a 29-9 loss. He said 19-0 because both winning teams, though we can admit the batting averages definitely got fat, batting practice in front of no fans, playing good old-fashioned playground baseball. So 19-0 is bad when you just simply end up 19. You only have 2 hits to show for it. Where 29-9, at least 9 guys crossed the plate. There was some offensive production, and even Don Mattingly said that at least his guys kept playing hard, and they had a lot of energy in a very deflating game. So I can appreciate that. But think about it: what's worse, 19-0 or 29-9?
I would say it has to be the 19-0. If you're a batting coach, you love the 29-9 game. Even, scoring 9 runs, you score 9 runs, you're going to win way more often than you're going to lose. So if you're a hitting coach, you're doing your job. Now, if you're a pitching coach,
you're right.
You probably, one team would like the 19-0 game, whereas the 29-9, both pitching coaches are probably a little upset about, particularly the one who gave up 29 runs.
Now, I will tell you, Don Mattingly said that he had no intention of using a position player like a lot of teams will do. because he doesn't want to fear the probability of an injury. And I can appreciate where he's coming from there. You got enough pitchers, especially during a year like this, we might carry an extra pitcher or two. So I get the logic from the Marlins skipper.
Do
For sure.
you know, Scott, if there have been any teams that have used the position player this year as a pitcher in a blowout?
I wouldn't know. I really wouldn't. So I
If
can't.
it's very rarely compared to other years. In other years, you see it happen a lot. And there was almost a time it was really becoming a thing. Like everyone was doing it. It was a fun thing. Let's just throw in an outfielder and see what he's got. Oh, look, a 70-mile-an-hour bloop, all in fun as long as they don't get hurt. But this year, as you said, the rosters are expanded a little bit.
Right.
Teams can make moves almost by the game. So if a pitching staff is taxed, they could take it out and call from enforcements from the practice squad to come in.
Exactly.
So you don't really need to use it. You could say it's something that the fans like to see, but there are no fans at the game. So.
Well, no, you're right. But again, you just mentioned it yourselves too, okay? You've got the ability within about an hour's drive or an hour and 90 minutes to move the players back and forth. So in Miami's case, that happens to work out well. To go from Miami to Jupiter, bring a guy, shuttle him back and forth, Detroit, Toledo. And I know a lot of other places are within a shorter distance to move their players back and forth without even having to fly them back and forth, so it does make things a bit easier. I don't know per se. That doesn't mean, however, that it hasn't happened. But
Right.
You're right. The biggest intangible here, Stu, is the fact that they can carry extra pitchers and they do make moves fast and furious. So why wouldn't they? You're talking about making roster moves due to COVID-19 to begin with, putting them on the injured list or whatever. So, again, I don't think you'll see it as much. And again, the no fans wanting to see it right now, it's just a manager doesn't want to burn up a position player at all, in the fear of a major injury, especially since everybody is indeed in a pennant race. So, all right, well, we had a guy on by the name of K.R. Lombardia. I know you remember the name all too well. And K.R. Lombardia, it doesn't seem like he's looking too bad right now because right now he said the New York Yankees were made out of glass. That's a great quote. It really is. But when you look at the New York Yankees, Stuart, going into tonight's action, they're 22 wins and 21 losses, and they're 6 games back of the Tampa Bay Rays in the American League East. Toronto is in front of them, and of course the Tampa Bay Rays, the magicians of how to win with the least amount of payroll. What the heck is wrong with the Yankees, knowing full well that everybody thought it'd be a Yankees and the Dodgers World Series? Doesn't look like the Yankees may even get in still.
I mean, right now they're the 8th seed. And
right.
It would be real interesting because in the first round they would get Tampa. So if the Yankees can get healthy and get again, like we mentioned before with Verlander, maybe coming back before the end of the year to bolster Houston's rotation.
Right.
If the Yankees get some players back and hang on to that 8th seed, and honestly, looking at it, the team right behind them is Baltimore. And they're another example of a team that maybe was playing a little over their head early on. And, maybe they start to fall back a little bit more. You have Detroit right behind Baltimore. As long as the Yankees don't go into a free fall, they're going to be in the playoffs. And once they're in the playoffs, anything can happen. And I think I saw something where the first round this year, the teams are going to play at their own ballparks. So, yeah, Tampa Bay would have a home field advantage against the Yankees. But then after that, I think the teams are going to go into a bubble, similar to the NBA and NHL. So now your home field, not that it really mattered a lot anyway with no fans.
Right.
But that's thrown out completely. And it doesn't matter, if you played 700 ball during the year and you're playing a team that's just under 500, home field is going to mean nothing. And the team that is at 500 could be a team that, just goes on a good run.
Well, going into last week's action, Baltimore took on the Yankees. The Baltimore Orioles had a 19-game losing streak against the Yankees, but that went away over the weekend. Now, preface your point, and an excellent point, I might add. No fans at the NBA bubble, right? None at the NHL bubble. Even playing field. I don't care about the virtual stuff. That doesn't mean nothing. Okay, so your point is tremendously valid. that it won't make any difference. But they have no choice because you can't keep playing ball deeper into the colder weather in colder climates for sure. So let's talk about some of the better teams that you just alluded to, and that's this. There are a total of 7 teams that are playing 600 baseball or better. 2 in the National League and 5 in the American League, mind you, going into tonight's action. The Dodgers right now are 32-12, 727 percentage. Of course, they're running away with that. And then you had the San Diego Padres, who nobody thought would do anything. And boy, have they really surprised a lot of people. And this team is finally making some good personnel decisions. They could be equipped for a longer year going into 2021. We might be seeing a lot of good things in San Diego. But they enter tonight's action at 28 wins and 17 losses at 622. Let's go to the American League. Tampa Bay Rays, 28-15, a team that's very dangerous, 651. The Chicago White Sox, a team that will be a lot of people are talking about, 27-16, 628. The Cleveland Indians, 26-17, 605. Minnesota Twins, 27-18, 600. And, of course, the Oakland A's always find a way to compete under Bob Melvin and Billy Beane, 26-15, 634. Of all those 7 teams, which ones scare you the most?
I had said we had the show just before they started the season, and my pick to come out of the American League was Minnesota. I think they're a strong team offensively. They're a team that could put some fear into people. They're going to come in as a low seed, again, if they finish in 3rd place in that division.
Right.
So they'll end up playing maybe Oakland in the first round, which is interesting when you think about it. It would be a 2 versus 7. Oakland's only a game better than Minnesota right now, if they were in the same division standings-wise. So it's really going to be a free-for-all once you get there. But I would say in the American League, I would still be a little concerned about Minnesota. I don't think you can count out the Yankees no matter who they put out there, just the pinstripes. I hate to say it, growing up a Met fan,
right,
but you can't, and Tampa will be tough, but I don't see them advancing maybe more than 1 or 2 rounds when it comes down to it. When it comes down and the games are do or die. I just don't see them going that far. You see a lot of great regular season teams. If you recall back in 2001, Seattle won all those games.
Right.
And they lost to the Yankees, who were a better team in the playoffs. So even in a 60-game season, you can't always say the best regular season team. And in the National League, too, the Dodgers have always underachieved in the postseason, whether making it to the World Series and losing or losing before then, like last year. And there's going to be pressure on them because everyone was expecting, like the Yankees, them to get there. And they've been playing well. But I could see a team like Atlanta, the Cubs, they have players who are battle-tested from 2016, having a run in there. The Phillies will be a tough out. What will make this exciting is that there's so many teams that if they ended up going all the way, you'd say, I could see that. It wouldn't shock you. Whereas in the past, a team like Pittsburgh, if they made the wild card game, you knew even if they won that one game, there was no way they were getting any further.
True. So let me ask you a question. Who was the manager that preceded Joe Madden with the Chicago Cubs?
I don't know.
I knew you were going to get it. That's why I threw it to you. I think I was going to make it that easy. What about Rick Renteria?
Wow.
And you know who he manages, don't you?
He is managing the White Sox now, or
no, my
Minnesota?
Trip up I-94. He was the guy before they brought in Joe Madden. And you know what? The White Sox hired him. Done a really good job at that rebuild. And the White Sox are awfully dangerous, Stuart. They really, really are. And you talk about the Philadelphia Phillies. You want to talk about 2 teams that are going to get sick and tired of each other over the next week? Get this. The Miami Marlins play the Philadelphia Phillies, by the way, 7 times in 5 days, all at Marlins Park. Don Mattingly says, we're playing a World Series in 5 days. He expects his team to play well, and we'll see their entire pitching staff. So, of course, think about it. When was the last time a team played 7 games in 5 days at home? like a regular 7-game series, which indeed it is. For the Marlins, this next 7 days is their World Series. Well, is Jessica Blaylock even asked her, did you think this is the biggest series that there is, knowing it's make or break? I mean, he admitted it probably is, but he's going to say, we're playing them hard one at a time, like any good manager should say. But think about it. Isn't this unheard of during the regular season? Of course, this is 2020. We get that, okay, that you're playing 7 games against one opponent in a 5-day period.
Now, do you think, because when they were supposed to play earlier in the year, when Miami had all those positive tests, and there was talk that the Phillies were really unhappy about that because they were really being punished for what appeared to be at the time a discretion by some Marlin players going out in Atlanta. Do you see anything carrying over for that the Phillies now have to play 7 games in 5 days because of something? You could, if it was weather, if the games were rained out, that you can't do anything about that. But in a case like this, do you think there's going to be any, I wouldn't say retaliation for it, but the Phillies, they may not be too happy playing all those games, and it wasn't their fault.
No, none whatsoever, Stuart. I'll tell you why. Who's to say what type of baseball they were playing earlier in the year anyways? Sometimes as the season goes on, your team gets a little better. They probably might be thankful that the games occurred later than they were. Remember, Joe Girardi, that was his first week on the job, so to speak. So he's acclimating to his players. And by now, I think all teams are affected by inconvenience. They really are. I mean, we've already seen everybody having all these millions of doubleheaders. So it's become part of the norm is what it is. The Phillies were probably perturbed. Is the best word I could give you earlier. Okay, perturbed. But they don't care, especially when the games are more meaningful later in the year. Because, again, we're talking about the different roster changes everybody's made. So I don't think so. I don't have an updated score on the game right now, but maybe you could provide that. But to answer your question, no, I really don't see that at all.
Okay. All right. And I'll see if I can get you that updated score. Where are they? Still 6-3, bottom of the 6th, but the Marlins have 2 men on, 2 outs in the bottom of the 6th. So tying run is at the plate. So we will see. And it's Corey Dickerson is coming up. So we'll see what happens. 2 men on, 2 men out.
Dangerous bat for the Marlins. Corey Dickerson and his power numbers. I like Corey Dickerson. In fact, when they had Jesus Aguilar on earlier, Jesus' attitude was, you know what? Despite everything that goes on, like any good player, he just says that the 7 games in 5 days, that we're just out there to work as hard as we can, and our goal is to go out there and just have fun and play the game the right way. That's what few people have to realize, that you're here to have fun and play the game the right way. Take care of your business. Everybody knows that during the course of a longer season, you'll have like 5 or 10 games that are clunkers, no matter how bad you are. I mean, that's a lot of games. In a shortened season, you can take that number, reduce it, but the margin of error being what it is. So I think there's a lot of interesting dynamics. You just have to watch your pitching staff. But I will tell you one thing that I've really been impressed with Major League Baseball as the year has gone on, is they've done a really good job adjusting to the protocols that Rob Manfred put in place to try to keep those numbers down. I don't know about you, Stu, but at one point or another, I thought this season was in danger of being canceled. I really did, especially with the early returns. But they've acclimated, and they've acclimated really well. And, do we like some of the rule changes? No, but we all realize that a lot of them aren't going to be here in 2021. But I think they made the best out of a tough situation.
They learned from mistakes, because when the Marlins had that first outbreak, there was 1 or 2, and they continued to play on, and then it just kind of escalated. Now, when teams like even the Mets a couple of weeks ago had a couple of cases, as soon as they did it, they shut down for like 4 or 5 days, and just before it escalated and got any worse. So by seeing a case here and there, they were able to act quickly, and knock on wood, I don't remember the last time there's been a positive case in baseball. It might be a week or 2, maybe. I know that there was someone who may have come in contact, and they may have canceled 1 game, but so far, it hasn't been an issue. You still keep your fingers crossed, especially in the postseason. but hopefully if they do a bubble like, the NBA or NHL, there won't be any problems. I mean, and speaking of the NBA, I know it's not baseball, but did you see what happened with the Rockets' Daniel House? Apparently there was a COVID-19 testing official, and I guess he came in and I guess they got a little frisky. He invited her into the room.
I heard about that. Didn't see
So,
it. Yeah, well, he's asking for trouble there. The Marlins. No, I didn't see it. I've heard about it. Then again, don't we always hear it on social media? I think the only problem the Marlins have right now is going into the week that they're the ultimate road warriors when you think about it. 16 of their 18 wins going into the week were on the road. You want to talk about road warriors? They got to find a way to win at Marlins Park, Stuart. They really do, because they're going to be playing a lot there. Don Mattingly didn't know whether or not, hey, it's just a product that we just go to the hotel and go to the ballpark, or do we go ahead and find a stop and have coffee and then go to the ballpark, where you got to wonder whether there's more to relax being at home, or on the road they don't have that luxury of doing that.
And, I wonder too, because let's face it, the Marlins haven't been a great draw at home in the past. And you wonder how this, with no fans at any of the stadiums, affects teams that have always had good attendance and now don't. Is it a bigger adjustment for them? Whereas teams like the Marlins and maybe even Tampa, who didn't draw that well, and it's kind of an empty stadium, there's really not much of a change for them. It's kind of quiet.
Well, to be nice about it, you're right. There's an old saying called sad but true. So if you want to go out there and take the word sad but true, okay, I'm not going to disagree with you. Fair enough?
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as the Marlins, maybe it's for the guys that have experience with the team in the past, maybe it's not a big issue. Yankee players that are used to big crowds day after day and are not getting
Right.
anything. The Yankees aren't even using the cardboard cutouts. So if you look in the stands, they're completely empty. So for them, a lot of teams feed off the crowd, and I know they have the piped in noise, but it's not the same. And just the fact that you can hear there's a pop fly, you hear somebody call for it, it sounds like a pickup game. Watching it on television, you don't see it. I don't know if you really see it as much. I mean, I'm not sure. Obviously, I haven't been in a stadium when this is going on. But I guess occasionally you hear it, and, hopefully, by next year, by spring training, this whole thing is cleared up to a point where you could start having fans. I was looking at the NFL. Most of the teams, at least I think just about all the teams for the first month, are going to be empty. I think the Dolphins may have like 13,000 fans for their home opener.
Right.
But pretty much the other teams, at least for their first couple of home games, are not going to have anything. And I think everyone is keeping their fingers crossed that they can have some fans before the end of the year in the NFL. And, baseball is probably wondering next year, can they go full capacity, or will they be maybe with partials like the NFL is hoping to do now?
Well, they'll have more answers. For the opener, we have a few more minutes to go on the broadcast, but the Kansas City Chiefs and the Houston Texans are figuring about 17,000 fans, 22% capacity for that contest. So, and they're giving season ticket holders, you talk about being a season ticket holder where it benefits you, they're the ones that get to go. It's safe to say there won't be any legroom, but I think Major League Baseball will weigh it. The NBA knows they want fans next year, so it'll be a TBD. But I agree. I mean, the teams that are used to having fans certainly benefit are at more of a disadvantage than those that don't have it, by all means. So it's interesting. But when you put our broadcast in perspective, okay, we've talked about a lot of different things, but how about those routes? 29-9 and 19-0. But again, no matter how we slice these particular games, and like I told Don Mattingly and I talked about today, they only count as one loss in the standings, whether it's 2-1 or 19-0 or 29-9. Again, if they come 2 or 3 in a row, pitching staffs get out of whack, but one, you deal with it. So
now, wasn't there a pitcher who gave up 13 of those runs?
I didn't even look at it. I really
one of the pitchers, he took one for the team, so they left him in. For him, it may take a toll. You kind of get, shell shocked, so to speak, when that happens. But you're right. Yeah, whether it's 2-1 or 29-9, it's the same in the standings. You just don't want to make it a habit.
Well, no, that's true. It throws a lot of things off. Your pitching staff goes there, so take a few clunkers here and there. Although I got to tell you, before we close the broadcast, the Detroit Tigers and Milwaukee Brewers played 4 times, and none of those games are really close. I mean, the Tigers won 12-1, the first one, and the Brewers came back with a clunker. I mean, none of those games are close, and those teams don't play very often. But my name is Scott Morganroth. This is Stuart Hack. He's my broadcast partner, 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. We do sports exchanges. We do a lot together. We do some networking here. Stuart, before we close the broadcast, why don't you let everybody know how they can get a hold of you?
Okay, when I'm not mourning the demise of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, I'm Stuart Hack. I have a tax and accounting practice in Wellington, Florida, Palm Beach County, Hack Tax and Accounting Services. Website, hacktaxandaccounting.com. You can reach me by email, stuart@hacktaxandaccounting.com. And you can reach me by phone, 561-214-6171. HackTax1 is Twitter, Stuart A. Hack EA LinkedIn, and you can catch the Facebook page, Hack Tax and Accounting.
Very good. And to get the audio version of this broadcast, you can do so by subscribing to the following at Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Let me repeat that again. That's Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. In terms of getting a hold of us, you can reach us at Twitter at Tribune South. That's Tribune South on Twitter. Facebook, South Florida Tribune Gets It Done. Instagram, South Florida Tribune. We do have a YouTube channel, South Florida Tribune. That's where you can find these broadcasts. So feel free to subscribe to those, and you'll be able to get everything we've got. We're going to be going to this platform a lot more. Our website is www.southfloridatribune.com. We have our media distribution partners send us material. We have writers as well. I write. And, of course, we also have the broadcast there. You can email me at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. And you want to connect with me, Scott Morganroth, on LinkedIn, feel free to do so. Stuart, great broadcast tonight. Really enjoy it. Of course, we're going to get used to doing it a lot more often, and I'm excited about doing a lot of these things.
I have to start combing my hair.
Well, you know what, I did, and I actually have to get my hair cut. So for those of you who are worried about it, I'll probably get it clipped. But meanwhile, the USF hat is okay because they're playing the Citadel over the weekend. So
I have the USF hat too. Do I have it handy? I don't know. Now next time.
Oh yeah. Oh, hey, USF. I'm a USF bull, and I'm proud of it. So meanwhile, on behalf of Stuart Hack, who's over there, my name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us. And all we ask you to do is go out there, be safe, and take COVID-19 seriously. Do the necessary things that you have to do to stay out of the hospital. Good night. Until the next edition with Scott Morganroth and Stuart Hack. Good night, Stuart.
Good night, Scott.